From the Detroit Free Press, I'm Brian Todd with today's voice briefing. It's Monday, June 1st, 2026.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Kristen Shamus. Michigan Medicine and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan have reached an agreement after months of negotiations that threaten to knock hundreds of thousands of Michiganders out of in-network coverage at the Ann Arbor-based health system. Neither company said it would disclose final contract terms in announcing the agreement on Wednesday, May 27th, but both pledged that their leaders would continue to meet in the coming weeks to finalize details of the new 5-year contract. The aim is to set June 30th as the date of its renewal. Reimbursement rates for Michigan Medicine were at the crux of the very public dispute that threatened access for 300,000 people at the Academic Medical Center of the University of Michigan. Blue Cross, which has the biggest share of Michigan's commercial health market, at roughly 70%, said affordability drove its efforts in these contract talks as it tried to cut costs and keep premiums low. The company said its soon-to-expire contract with Michigan Medicine already reimbursed the health system and its providers at a higher rate than any other health system in the state. Meanwhile, Michigan Medicine's leaders said the health system has been undercompensated for the specialized care it provides to patients with the most complex medical needs in Michigan, while also conducting medical research and driving innovation to develop new therapies on its Ann Arbor campus. To learn more, go to freep.com.
This is Christina Hall with the Detroit Free Press. Short-term rentals are an easy way for travelers to use a home away from home and for the owners to make money. But some neighbors say they sometimes get more than they bargained for. Issues with noise, parking, trash, and disruptive parties, as well as strains on water, septic, and public safety. There have been 2 fatal shootings at short-term rentals in Metro Detroit in recent months, including one Friday in Hazel Park, and another shooting in which houses and vehicles were struck. Conversations about moratoriums, regulations, or zoning changes for short-term rentals have or are being held in communities across Michigan, from Metro Detroit to tourist regions in northern Lower Michigan to the Upper Peninsula. Possible crackdowns include restricting short-term rentals to certain zoning districts, adding caps on the numbers that can be licensed in a community, and having different rules for short-term rentals that are owner-occupied and for those that are not. Some local rules have even landed communities in court. The state does not specifically regulate short-term rentals, except for levying a 6% use tax. Each of Michigan's municipalities can regulate short-term rentals, though some may not do so. On May 21st, 2 Michigan state representatives put forward a bipartisan plan regarding short-term rentals. One of the bills would establish a short-term rental act that includes provisions for the creation of a registry, database, and 6% excise tax to be evenly split between the municipality the short-term rental is situated in and Pure Michigan, the state's advertising campaign. The other would allow local governments to enact and enforce regulations on short-term rentals, as long as the measures don't have the effect of a total ban or prohibition.
I'm Susan Tompor, and I'm a personal finance columnist with the Detroit Free Press. Most people sell their homes and never imagine that they'd owe capital gains taxes on any profits. And honestly, most people don't in many markets. Currently, an individual who sells a home is permitted to keep up to $250,000 in capital gains on the sale of a house that they've owned and used as a principal residence for at least 2 years of the prior 5 years leading up to the date of that sale. And when we're dealing with married couples, that limit is up to $500,000. It's been 30 years, and that's been the tax code and how most people have been able to get around paying capital gains on their income tax return. Yet, some real estate professionals want to see that threshold doubled or even eliminated to free up some home sales in many markets. New research by the National Association of Realtors estimates that nationwide, about 13.1 million homeowners, or 15% of all owner-occupied households, already have unrealized capital gains in their homes that exceed the limits currently allowed. It's not a huge issue in many parts of the country. In Michigan, in fact, it's estimated that only 5.5% of homes currently exceed that limit. But the National Association of Realtors says the numbers could grow substantially in the years ahead as home values grow. Not everyone agrees, as some experts argue that doubling the cap or eliminating it would mainly help some very well-off homeowners. It's an interesting debate, but it also brings home the point that you really want to study the tax rules before you sell a home, especially if you've lived in that home for 30 or more years and have seen dramatically higher home values in your area. It's best to know what type of taxes you might face ahead.
Find more from the Detroit Free Press on freep.com. That's FREEP.com. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear more from us tomorrow.